As I was saying, in terms of treatment by the religious, my observation continues to be that, statements are made to the extent that you're asserted to be, like profound in a certain way, and then, and this, I judge this to be part of a result of the religious outlook in the minds of the religious people. But they talk about, you're profound in certain ways, how you are going and how are others treating you, and how is your survival, and such questions are not asked. And then talk about how, oh, you're mine, you belong to me, and then you're quickly snatched and grabbed by the religious, and how you're to be treated next is precluded on your behalf without you having the rights to say anything. And so what I think this comes from is their Lord is someone who is very antithetical to lordship, like those who were admirers of Lord Bertrand Russell were people who admired his philosophical writings, his protests of nuclear weaponry use, his history of Western philosophy, his published debate against Father Copleston, Why Am I Not a Christian? So what's going on is that the religious people they've got a Lord who's been murdered for them. And that murder in itself is an ambiguous one, because what I comprehend to have been an induced suicidal mentality, because contending with the realization that there isn't going to be any option but the reaching the top of this hill and getting nailed to a cross, feeling suicidal. Then I take genuine offense to Calvary, saying, oh, this was his moment of achievement no, this is an entrapment upon entrapment upon mistreatment upon entrapment, and under false pretenses is what you can discover from the book of Mark was a possibility that the later Gospels are then concealing, because they didn't want to know that the King Herod and his queen both had real eggy tampons in those days. But so that their Lord is a man with a heart who died for them and loves everyone. Well, yeah. And so then I talked about how in society bisexual is the only type of person that can that goes around and connects with every type of person, just whether that be in terms of conversation, and so this argument is already emerging in various other writers, going, well, it surely looks like it seems to be the case that Jesus would have been a bisexual, and his sexual health identity would not be admitted to exist in his own time. And it is not my idea. It is something I've devoted a lot of thought to, but there are already books on the topic that are out discussing it. My discussions include that we be reasonable, and historical context is always stressed by biblical scholars when they say that you consider what is meant by particular passages of the Bible. But I also even say historical context when you consider what supernatural as a word was to denote in previous centuries as well. And that's, as I said, in the Bronze Age, that you spit on a wound and you'll cure it. Now, so yeah, what happens, I think, is that I actually think the instinct, like the experience that they call the Holy Spirit passing through them is the beginning of their demographic, and in even in unknown unions with other churches on this matter, like a suction of liberties out of the bisexual community from that standpoint, and you can see it, and it's them trying to receive their Lord through his murder for them. So for them to say, "Oh, my Lord is a man who got murdered, and he got murdered for me as a gift to me," I say is selfish. If there were an iota of truth to it, it would then be disgustingly selfish. So limiting debates to topics and themes of whether or not is this true? Did Jesus really exist? Did he really say this, that, and the other? It's irrelevant to the fact that what amounts to your in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit is that, yeah, you'll want to look upon the bisexual community. When you're talking to a bisexual, you go from like top themes of like intellectual prowess, the little things don't ask at all. Little things like how's things, are you in pain, you've been mistreated, anyone mistreated you lately, how are you getting by? Essentially basic humanity questions are less, and statements are made less and uttered less than and so also the two friendships I've mentioned where there was this whole snatch and grab, you're mine talk, and I'm like, excuse me, did you ask me about my views concerning cooperation with you and choosing to cooperate with you? Because I am aware to some extent of what errors grow out of you making this move right here, right now, to say, I snatch and grab you and you're mine. So, those friendships, and then they wonder why I keep them at a distance. I'm like, no, fuck you. Like, as soon as you're not conversing with the basic four rights because you've deviated and it's because of your religion, then, get ready for your religion to get, attempted murdered. So this simple puzzle that Jesus had the church will even say in the present sense, he has a heart for everyone, but no sexual health identity. And then there'll be talk about, and the bisexual community is prone to all these forms of suffering. And they'll be like, and Jesus had to suffer and die as a gift to me, as a gift to my empowerment. And then, yeah, and then yeah, but Jesus' love is for everyone. His post murder love is for everyone. And then and the bisexual is the only person who can hook up with everyone. And and the bisexual community are suffering. So, and Jesus' suffering is an absolute gift to us. And because redemption merely sends you back to being inbred in a garden, with repudiation for apples, trying to outgrow these fickle, pathetic paradigms of New Testament theology is appalling. It's the church that I think are demonstrating. I think because of this, because of the way in which majority and mainstream regards and conceptualizations of Jesus subsist, bisexuality is not stated to be, I would argue, even more natural, and it's probably occurred more in nature and than heterosexuality. We know, obviously, there's ways around that nowadays, but for procreation, granted, necessary. But the wedding is an invention initially of the church. And that is not to say I don't respect for the institution of marriage. I do. However, the facts are the facts. So, like, that Jesus would have been a bisexual is more conclusive than the argument that weddings are a natural phenomenon. So the church, in making it a taboo subject, to say Jesus has a heart for everyone, and that heart entails his murder, and the bisexuals can sleep with everyone. And the bisexuals seem to be suffering in all these ways. Yeah, but don't you want for Jesus' murder before you'll accept him? And then they're like, oh yeah. And I see. Do you understand why I see you stupid inbreeded Christians? And oh yeah. And so could it be that this concept that the Christian experiences, I require my Lord's murder before I'll accept his heart, is proportionate to, on mass scale, the bisexual community suffers all manners of suffering? Could it be? I was at the magistrate's court and I was thankful in the morning they never asked me to place my hand on a Bible. Thank you and good morning. So, aye, 'tis true. I regard severely and by all experience that statements of look at me placate conscience, human conscience and sensibilities there are so fake in the case of conversation with Roger Mark B. Nelson. In the years I worked for him, I uh, my sexual health identity was dictated to me by him. I was not allowed to exist. Ultimately, I realized because certain things he had, um, people that higher outranked me, that he outranked them, and he'd have them say like partially ambiguous things that weren't completely clear to me. So I'm left wondering if does this mean this? Does this mean this? And there's a multiplicity of things to wonder. But I comprehend Roger as someone who was he's gonna rip off because of his chest thumping dignities. Like he hasn't. I would challenge him to read Peter Stodge's Neo-Nihilism, because the idea that his morality is an illusion. So now here's a religionist's take on that. They go, well, so what's this saying? We should go and deliberately be immoral. It's like, no, it's saying morality is an illusion. A sentiment of kindness that you describe a certain way could be described in about 30 other ways, 34 other ways. So what's it classed as? And plus, your God is unaddressed by you as horrifically immoral. So here you are taking out on progressive philosophy the inner conflicts that you've placed upon yourself by way of your stupid faith, and this whole how does he know better? So I considered how his claim his ethics are a contingency on a poofy story of a theology poofy story, but the separating and adapting of ethics into the practice of liberal scientific method would have to be necessary for him to practice the method at all. So there's looking at how and why he hasn't pitched scientific method against his religious claims and would instead rather try and flog and swipe the conclusions of other people's thinking. But that's what Roger Toll will do. Remember, it's very dangerous if we know what matters is only a slogan. Like, see, who was honest was Clint's. Like, their slogan was, "It's gonna be crazy," and then they would have these tremendous bargains. And so, like, the scope of a slogan really is a bit like, it's a bit street corner. Like, do you want me to flash you? I can flash you. The slogan is a bit it really relates to sales. Not the insecurities of upper management or the co-founders' insecurities stemming from their religious prejudices, because they chant about these religions. They aren't ashamed, though should be ashamed of themselves for fucking reason after reason. They won't be, and they will continue to be religious while continue to indicting and misjudging art, because they're constantly going, well, which aspect of which art piece is about your thoughts connotative to a future intention to infringe against a basic human right of another. which art piece, which lyrics from which songs, which album title, which movie, which episode of which show. That's forever their question. And like I say, they're in a struggle with what is artificial and what is it to create. And their minds aren't at peace on that topic because we aren't born theists. No one's born going around saying, without prior conversation from parents and relatives, God exists, and Jesus is quite clearly his son. Children are led into these types of this education. It's informed. All children are atheists. In fact, every religious person is an atheist with regards to, the mass grave of mythology and the 999 gods of other religions. So yeah, but since our use of an exchange of language is something that we as humans have created, and since people have kept going to define God in a way that escapes this is a con of language. He exists, but he's evaded of all five of your senses. So he exists, but cannot be touched, tasted, smelled, seen, or heard. So can't be detected with the senses. You've claimed he exists through communicational language, but humanity has created language, and with that language, you're saying that instead God created us, our species, and everything that is. Well, so you're now two-faced with regards fundamentally to creating, right at the core of meaning and your approach to meaning in life. So then you will target artists, obviously, because the artist is the one who doesn't, well, whether they intend to or not, you will perceive them as antagonizing that hypocrisy point where you've gone, humankind created language. We've used that language to define God as being beyond the sensibilities of humankind, and so therefore he's senseless. And we've insisted he created us. So the result is senseless claims and indictments against artists who do understand what creating is, with a consistent philosophy. Those of you who haven't thought of any insights into anthropology and the emergence of language and man's construction of language like a stick with a rock tied around it to make a basic hammer. Language is created by us. So then Nietzsche's question is, well, which is it? Is man one of God's blunders, or is God one of man's? God is one of man's.